What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is week 11 of the Texas League Fantasy Video Podcast. Sorry we had to miss a week last week, but we are back and ready to talk a whole lot of football. We are unfortunately one man down this week as fatherhood calls to our good friend Deuce. So we always want to support family and support fathers. So we'll stand in his place. So I am one of your hosts, Devo, known as Devastator in the league, joined by our league commissioner.
I'm the commiss here. I want to throw a PSA out there. The trade deadline is Saturday. Is anyone looking to make some last minute trades?
And I'm looking at some of these records, and some of us need to be trying to make some trades coming up, as we will. There are 4 games left in the regular season. And in all actuality, no one is safe from losing their spot. Everyone in the league is within 4 games. So the next 2 weeks, people are going to be trying to solidify their playoff push, or they're going to be trying to be pulled down into playoff hell. I personally want to still make the playoffs. So I'm looking to upset some people. But before we get into last week's games in our league and this week's matchups, as we go into that crucial playoff push, let's talk a little bit of NFL football and a little fantasy interaction. Thursday night football, we had the Falcons at the Panthers. After a couple of good Thursday night football games, we kind of reverted to what we had the most of the first half of the season in terms of Thursday night football. So it was a NFC South matchup for control, I'll say, of the NFC South between the Falcons at the Panthers. And we had a surprise start from not a surprise start, but PJ Walker continuing to keep his position as a starting quarterback for the Panthers. Did not do a whole lot in the game from a fantasy standpoint. It was the Dante Freeman show, who had 31 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown. One thing that the Panthers have continued to rely on, despite trading away Run CMC, is that run game. And they went out to a tune of 232 yards on the ground as a team. The Falcons just didn't have much of a response on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Mariota, good dual threat game, 186 through the air, 43 on the ground. So, he's been doing that since Oregon. So that's not a surprise. But the tale continues to be, why do you go from being able to use Kyle Pitts get a win? You come back out the next week and he disappears again. Talk to me, Jerry. Why they can't use my boy,
man? I'll say this. They actually threw the ball to London in the end zone. He got a touchdown on my bench. Kyle Pitts and he was in the same boat. They weren't getting no touches. He was just determined to run the ball. And I thought with Cordell Patterson coming back, they were going to continue to try to pound the ball. And for the most part, they did, minus the times earlier. James Winston passes down the field. Because he threw some questionable passes that just got dropped. I think he was Clement Weather. But he did connect with Drake London for a touchdown. Shocking. That's what you do. Yeah, Drake London sitting on the win this week. We'll talk about that.
So yeah, the Panthers, got a home win, but it really wasn't that, fantasy wise, nobody jumped out to too big of a lead unless, you did have Dante Foreman in your starting lineup. Then yeah, you might have had a nice little lead after the Thursday night game. So then that takes us to the game in Germany, and I'll let you talk about the Seahawks versus your Tampa Bay Bucks.
The biggest gripe, I guess you could say, I've had all season about the Bucks is that they weren't running the ball enough, in my opinion. You have to run the ball to open up the passing game. And I guess they said, you know what, we're gonna run the ball today. Because they didn't want Kenneth Walker and Geno Smith having the ball. So even though the run game wasn't great, they kept running it, led to some nice play action passes. Brady spread the ball around, came out strong in the first half. Geno and the Seahawks made some adjustments in the second half, made it competitive, but we came away with the W. The Buccaneers got their first win on foreign ground, international game, and Brady continues his streak of not losing international games. And we go into the bye week with a win, so I'll take it.
I mean, the man is not the GOAT by accident. So as a Brady fantasy owner, I will say that it was good to see him go for 250 and he could have kept the interception, but that happens as well. Definitely could have used a little bit more out of Mike Evans. I mean, 554, we're at a half PPR, so that only got me, 2.5. So he ended up with under 9 on the game. So not a great performance, but again, the potential is there that I've been trying to take advantage of all season with that QB wide receiver stack. And on the other side of the ball, if we're looking at the Seahawks, again, Geno, they didn't win, but it was not because Geno didn't have a good game. 275, 2 touchdowns, no picks, right? Plus another 20 on the ground. So just about 300 all-purpose yards from a quarterback who's basically making the veteran minimum this season, but still has his team playing well. DK Metcalf owners happy to see him get involved. 6 catches for 71. Tyler Lockett only 3 catches, but he had 42 and a touchdown. So if you're in the PPR, that's a solid 13 points. So you hit double digits there. So yeah, I think that the Seahawks players are going to continue to have viable fantasy value now. But the Seahawks problem was they had an absolute lack of run game. Down 14-0 at the half, they had to come out throwing in the second half. So we're able to put up some points, but the Buccaneers did just enough to close the game out in the fourth with a late touchdown. So
I don't think it was their lack of a true running game. I think it was the Buccaneers got healthy. We didn't re-sign Ndamukong Suh. We signed Akeem Hicks in his place to be the running mate with Vita Vea. He had been hurt for like the last 3 or 4 weeks. He was back this game, and because he was back playing next to Vita, it made the run game, it solidified that front, which made it harder to run because Kenneth Walker has been producing all season since he got the job due to injury.
Indeed. Okay. Well, that's what's up. So, moving on to the next game that we're going to focus on, take the good with the bad. You come in front of the camera, you take your lumps like a man. So I'm going to talk about the Colts versus the Raiders at home. Not going to focus on the fact that Jeff Saturday, their interim coach, has never coached a game before, because the fact of the matter is the Colts are a veteran team. And they have a lot of good veteran players, and they showed that on Sunday. This is the Jonathan Taylor that we've been looking for since week 1, okay? 147 yards on the ground, had a 66-yard touchdown run, looked strong all game. It was him and Josh Jacobs that were going back and forth. Josh Jacobs ended up 21 for 78 in a touchdown.
This is Jonathan Taylor you've been looking for since you drafted him number 1.
Everybody that's drafted Jonathan Taylor this season has been looking for this Jonathan Taylor since week 1. But the thing I want to focus on is how we ended up getting beat by a 97-year-old quarterback who did it with his arm and his legs. Matt Ryan had a rushing touchdown, no big deal. You know what I'm saying? It was a 1-yard plunge. But on a crucial third down situation in the fourth quarter, where we were trying to get them off the field to get the ball back in their territory, he takes off for a 39-yard run, and the next couple of plays through the game winning, what ended up being the game winning touchdown. Matt Ryan himself couldn't believe he was that wide open.
Hey,
this is the longest.
If Tom Brady does it, then you really got problems.
The longest run of his career, I believe they referred to it as during the broadcast. So, but again, the Raiders lost. Not all a bad day from a fantasy standpoint. Carr had 248, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Devontae Adams, 9 catches, 126 in a touchdown. Foster Moreau filling in for injured Darren Waller, 43 in the touchdown. You know, so people, and I'm not just saying this as a fan, right? Because, it's obvious that I'm a Raiders fan. All of our losses this season have been by 1 score. They have been by 1 score or less. So we're 2-7 right now. We could just as easily be 4-5, 6-3, however you want to match it. I think that we have to do a lot better about the mental mistakes at the end of the game. I mean, Carr has, over the first 9 seasons of his career, he has this great reputation of being in these end of the game situations where he leads comebacks. Like he's tied or second or third in comebacks over the last however many years, right? Whatever the stat is. But this season, those comebacks have just not been there. And he is playing for his professional life right now. If he's going to remain the Raiders quarterback for the future, he is going to have to step up. And in these situations where he has to make big throws, or just has to make the right throws, that has to change. So as a fantasy owner of Carr and Adams, and as a fan, I still want to see them do a lot better. I think there were positives, and we have a big game in Denver this weekend, rivalry games. Denver hasn't beaten us in 2.5 seasons. So I'm sure they're licking their chops, seeing that we might be vulnerable. But fantasy-wise and fan-wise, we're going to get the W. So I don't always go out on a limb, but I'm saying it now. We will get the W this weekend in Denver and try to get this thing back on the right track. All right. So next game. This was probably the game of the weekend. Talk to me about Minnesota Buffalo, Jared.
Well, selfishly, I watched the game. Kirk Cousins did not produce nearly as many points as I thought he should have for the way that game went. Once again, I don't think it would have really helped my cause anyway. But every point would have helped.
Right?
It helped Adam because he had Justin Jefferson and secured the high score of the week, but we'll get to that later. I saw something on a Facebook group, and I'm going to ask you as a fan, there's a lot of people who like to, there are certain quarterbacks in this league who get talked down on when they don't win games that people believe they should have won. But I saw a narrative that says Josh Allen can't close out games. They said if the game goes to overtime, he loses.
I don't agree with that narrative.
I think the thing is, it's true he's lost all overtime games, but football is a team game, so you can't blame it on him.
Exactly. I would only say that narrative becomes to stick to you if it becomes a situation like Favre, right? Where you can directly trace the quarterback's decisions on the field. Like Favre has 2 separate instances where he threw game-losing interceptions in NFC Championship games. He threw, a game-losing interception in the Super Bowl. Like those are the times where you can kind of say, hey, this quarterback in this moment doesn't have it. But I mean, again, you look at that. So you're gonna go back to that game against the Chiefs and blame it. How you gonna blame that on Josh Allen? The man never touched the field. Like, so how you gonna blame
Oh, I agree.
him never even touching the field? How you put that on him?
By that logic, we can blame Sunday on him. He did throw that interception in the red zone.
Now that one is his actually. So
we can blame that one on him.
We can actually place both of the game-changing moments on him in the end, the fumble in the end zone and the interception. But you can't blame those on him, but not turn around and talk about how after the fumble in the end zone, he came and got his team downfield so that they could kick a game-time field goal when it looked like it was over.
Yeah.
Now, we also gonna have to talk about how the NFL screwed up and that the game never should have gone into overtime, because that Gabe Davis catch was obviously something that should have been reviewed. The play before the reception where they kicked the field goal. You're the NFL. You have all the power in the final 2 minutes. It's nothing for you, for the in the stadium replay man or the replay man back in New York, to hit the buzzer to say, wait. The coaches are dependent on, and Bill Belichick came back out and reiterated and said that coaches should be allowed to initiate a challenge in the last 2 minutes when the booth doesn't seem like they're moving fast enough. I don't think they should change that rule, because there's too many situations, because you end up having too many challengeable situations in the final 2 minutes, and coaches won't be able to challenge. They have to, you hate for a coach to have to make a decision, one challenge over the other. But I think that probably was a discussion this week in the referee meetings in the NFL and the review team meetings, to say plays like that along the sideline, end of the game, you have to stop play to review those to make sure you get that right on the field. But from a fantasy standpoint, I mean, you said Kirk Cousins didn't give you as many points. We need 357, only 1 touchdown, 2 picks. So that's how they were even in that situation where they were down so much at the end of the game. But even though he wasn't throwing touchdowns, he was pushing them down the field. So you ended up Dalvin Cook, 14 carries, 119 yards. I mean, he was rumbling in that fourth quarter. And then Justin Jefferson, the boy is unreal. Like, could you imagine if they had Jefferson and Diggs on that team right now? How ridiculous that would be. I mean, Jesus. But anyway, 2 unreal catches in that game in the fourth quarter. One of them was a 4th and 18, where he basically just took it one-handed away from the defender. So again, that game should have been over. He drops that pass, game over. TJ Hawkinson, 7 more catches with his new team. So he's got something like 15 or 16 catches in his first 2 games with this new team. So, I mean, fantasy standpoint, you got some good production on both sides of the ball. So if we look at the Bills, again, Josh Allen, 330 with a touchdown, also 2 picks. Josh Allen almost 100 yards on the ground, though. That dude is a weapon. So let's get into, and then again, Stephon Diggs, 12 for 128. Gabe Davis, 6 for 93. But let's talk a little bit about Josh Allen, right? Everyone always wants to say that Josh Allen, they refer to him as an elite, right? They put him up there with Mahomes. They put him up there with Rodgers. They say he's the next best thing in the AFC. If you had to start your football team with a young quarterback, would you take Josh Allen or would you take Lamar Jackson?
That is a very tough question, because people try to compare them and you really can't. And the reason I say that is supporting cast.
Who has the better supporting cast right now?
Easily Josh Allen. Who is the number one receiver in Baltimore?
The tight end.
Yeah. You just made a comment. If you imagine what Minnesota would look like with Diggs and Jefferson, he got Diggs.
But again, we're talking about, we're talking about, again, I'm saying if you have to pick your quarterback first, before you know what receivers you're going to put around him, before you know what running back you're going to put with him, you have to pick a quarterback, right? Like I'm not including like Mahomes in this because to me, neither one of them is there yet. Like Mahomes is a different kind of animal. Like when you're talking about one ABC in the NFL, I mean, again, you can't take anything away. You cannot take anything away from Rodgers, Brady, or Mahomes. Like they're the three. No matter 44-year-old Brady is still better than 90% of the quarterbacks in the league. 38-year-old Rodgers still better than 95% of the quarterbacks in the league. And Patrick Mahomes, same percentage, better than 95% of the only two people in the league that I would pick in the same level with Mahomes are Rodgers and Brady. So you can't put them there yet. But if you're talking about that next level, then Allen and Lamar are there. But so again, don't look at the supporting cast. If you had to just take them on their quarterback skills alone, who would you take?
I might. I'm gonna put it this way. And I gotta play devil's advocate. Who's my offensive coordinator? Because
that's a good question. I think that matters.
Like that's how you determine your quarterback.
That is true.
Because I put it like this: if my coordinator is the head coach, or if my team is being led by the coach in Miami, when we got wide receivers that we know can move, give me Lamar Jackson, because as he rolling out the pocket, he can just hit him in stride, and we about to be this generation's version of the greatest show on turf.
Right.
But if you got a team that is more, now if you put him in Indianapolis, where you got a strong running back behind you, give me Josh Allen, because all he got to do is hand it off, and he can take off with it. It depends on who.
But do you think that you will be taken away from your quarterbacks, one of your quarterback strengths? Because again, I hate that in the NFL, skin tone often determines how they see a quarterback, right? Every black quarterback's a dual threat. Every white quarterback's a pocket passer. That's not necessarily the case, right? People forget how much Rodgers used to run. Steve Young was one of the most runningest quarterbacks ever, and he was left-handed. The man was a ridiculous threat out there, right? And then on the flip side, Byron Leftwich wouldn't run away from the pocket if you gave him a bus pass and say, hey, Byron, follow behind these three offensive linemen. He ain't running at all. So
that's because he knew his strength wasn't running
at all. So I think that so for me, I like Josh Allen's accuracy a little bit better than Lamar's, but I still take Lamar because I think that Lamar has that X factor. I think that as talented as Josh Allen is, I think that we're honestly seeing his ceiling. And Lamar Jackson won an MVP, and we haven't seen him play his best football yet. So that's why I would take Lamar. That's why I would take Lamar. Both great quarterbacks. But all right. So even though he's not here, you better believe the hater in me is going to mention the fact that the Chargers did lose to the 49ers in the Sunday night game. That was to be expected. Their whole receiving core is banged up. Like they have no weapons out there to catch anything. Herbert did the best he could, under 200 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Austin Eckler, as strong as his thighs are, cannot carry the whole team with no passing game, and they just didn't have anybody to catch the ball. On the other side, it's not like Garoppolo did anything amazing. I mean, 240, no touchdowns. He had a QB sneak for a touchdown. Nobody really had a game that blows you away, with the exception of Brandon Ayuk, 6 catches for 84 yards. But other than that, pretty much on that game. But I will say this, the 49ers did complete the California sweep. They beat the Chargers and beat the Rams twice this season. So they can call themselves the Kings of California this year. And then our final game of the week, which is the final chance for people to get that W in fantasy football, which featured the, coming into the game, undefeated Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders. So, you figure Jalen Hurts, that offense, the way they've been rolling at home, the Commanders, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead, I believe. Let me take a look. I believe they were up 14-0 at one point.
Yeah.
They were up 14-0. And the Commanders just never went away. Ended up taking the lead late, and Eagles had the game late in the game, and was it a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown that sealed it? Yep.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was a fumble return for a touchdown when the Eagles got the ball late in the fourth quarter, where they had a chance to win. Coming off a bye week, you were hoping that the team would be sharp and focused again, especially playing a home game. And they looked like that in the first quarter, but the rest of the game was just all the Commanders. Taylor Heineke, 211 yards, but their game last night was the run game. Robinson with 86 and a touchdown, Gibson with 44 and a touchdown, and their defense, again, just all over the place. For the Eagles,
you got 4 linemen on your team that you drafted in the first round.
They better be getting after it.
One coming off injury, you better be able to stop somebody.
And so, them with Washington moving to 5-5, the Cowboys losing, I think, dropped them to 6-3. The Eagles now 8-1. So, and the Giants are what? 8-2?
That's a very good question. Let me look that up. The Giants are 7-2.
7-2. That's right. They already had their bye. So, one loss puts that division right back up for grabs for everybody. In all honesty. So, the big thing, though, of course, is Mercury Morris and the 72 Dolphins can go ahead and pop that champagne, since this year's last undefeated team officially lost. So they had their recent commemoration of that undefeated and Super Bowl winning season a couple weeks ago in Miami. So I know those boys are happy that they get to maintain their status as the only undefeated Super Bowl winning team. Because 18-1 is not as good as 17-0, and just throw it over to basketball as well. 73-9 with no NBA title is not better than 72-10 with a ring. So, sorry, Warriors, the Bulls still get to be the Kings because both of the other teams that held that record also won the NBA Finals the year they set the all-time wins record. So, you're gonna have to do it again, fellas, and win the championship in order to get that, to hold that status in my eyes. But hey, who am I? I'm just some nerd on the internet. But anyway, so let us turn to this week's games in the Texas League, and we will talk about how we did as a group.
Not very good.
So yeah, just off the top of our heads, we did a terrible job this week picking this week's winners. We had 3 different games where we were all wrong. So let's start with let us start with Stairway to Evans versus Armed Robbery, which involved our illustrious commissioner. Jared, talk to us about what happened in this here game.
As you can see, I have Cooper Cup and Jerry Judy, who both. Oh, no, I take that back. Cooper Cup did get the 3 receptions, so he got the 1.5. But other than that, he didn't do anything. Judy got hurt on his first target. He didn't even catch the ball. Well, yeah, that didn't do. And then the California Bowl, as you called it, between the Chargers and the 49ers, George Hill out here with 1 catch. But they still won the game. That's all that matters. But I could appreciate if he had done more than 1 catch. But
I'm sure you could have, my friend.
This was not a good week for me.
Let's take a look at the bench. Were there any mistakes that were nothing really on the bench that could have changed the outcome, unless you're stashing a 60-point coin on the bench there?
Nope.
So let's take a look on the other side of the ball at Nate's team. So Trevor Lawrence, 23, solid day from the quarterback. But here's
it wasn't him. It was Kirk Cousins that killed me. I mean, Christian Kirk that killed me with 2 touchdowns.
That wide receiver QB stack that you'd love to see taken advantage of with young Sunshine and his favorite target. Travis Kelce was Travis Kelce with a solid 17 points, him just doing what he does all the times. And even good old Amon-Ra St. Brown came back in where I was about to call them the Pistons. The Lions pulled off a surprising 1-point win over Chicago, who was rolling in that game. The outcome of that game kind of surprised me too, because Chicago was rolling. I mean, Justin Fields had a monster game for Chicago. He was on the bench. He was on the bench in another game. We're going to get to that, but Justin Fields with the monster game, it just wasn't enough. We've known all season that Detroit can put up points. So that was not surprising that that game was, 60 points total. That was a good game. But yeah, so all of us picked Stairway to Evans. All of us got it wrong. And our commissioner is still currently holding on. If the playoffs started today, the commissioner would occupy that 6th spot. So he's still in pretty good shape. Like, there's no need to cry for him. He all right. We'll go to another game that we all got wrong. And yes, I do mean we all got it wrong because I actually picked against myself this week. So looking at the matchup, right, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing Prescott is going to be in Green Bay. That's going to be a high-scoring game. Tyreek is always poised to go off. And, Detroit Williams, he's had a few games this year. The biggest thing that I had going on was I'm looking at Derrick Henry versus Denver. Denver has one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this year. And I know what Josh Jacobs and other running backs have done to Denver this year. I expected Derrick Henry to put up 125 and 2 touchdowns with ease at home against Denver. It was not the case, to my benefit. So on the other side of the ball, not only did I get a monster game from Jonathan Taylor, I had a huge game from Tony Pollard. Both of them putting up us 20-plus points, surprisingly. And again, Tom Brady didn't crack 25 points. Mike Evans didn't crack 10 points. And I didn't expect either one of those things to happen. So I actually picked against myself. But this is where I give myself kudos. This was my pickup, was the Minnesota defense. So that late touchdown they scored helped me. Buffalo put up 10, we put up 16. Now, Tyler Bass tried to bring it back all by his damn self, putting up 12 points from the kicker spot, put up more than my receivers. Zach Ertz getting hurt early in the game also did not help. But the good news for me is by the time the Sunday night football game came around, I didn't actually need Debo to score. I had already had the game won as my opponent was out of players. So kudos to me for getting win number 4. Somehow still in the 11th spot, but we ain't scared because again, I look at it like this: I'm only 3 games out of first.
only three games out of first with 4 games to go.
Stranger things have happened. Is all I'm gonna say. So now let us go to Edcorn versus Kirkwood. So now I'm not gonna lie. I picked this as this was sort of my guy's good. It's my boy's birthday weekend. I can't pick against him on his birthday weekend. I thought.
What did I say in the group chat? I wished him a happy birthday and then wished he would lose because I picked against him.
So I was just hoping for a birthday miracle, and neither one of us got it because I'm sure he would have appreciated it. But it's not like his team didn't have good games, like right. So you have Russell Wilson only 18 points, but he got 18 out of Diggs, and he balanced that, with only 4 from Juju Smith-Schuster. But here was the difference: 32 points from CeeDee Lamb. Come on now. Once again, I'm gonna say this. My gut instinct was correct. The players didn't listen to my gut, and that's what the problem was. It wasn't that I picked wrong. The players did too well. So 32 points from freaking CeeDee Lamb, and then the Tennessee defense also putting up 14 points was a kicker. So, could have played Rodgers. That would have got him 7 more points, 111. Mostert could have been in the slot, and that would have been enough to get him to win. But, you play the coulda, woulda, shoulda in fantasy all the time. But so unfortunately, I was incorrect on that particular pick. So now let's go to one where we surprisingly this week got it all right. Company Van versus 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal. This game actually ended up being closer than I thought. I know you see the 20-point difference, but I didn't think it was going to be that close. In all honesty, to break it down.
And that's a 20-point difference. That's a 20-point difference with a 0.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what else do you see here?
Mahomes is Mahomes. Mahomes alone was the reason I picked him to win. I'm like, Mahomes, yeah. That and the fact that I wasn't sure that Josh Allen was going to play. And let us not forget Saquon Barkley against Houston. Just assumed he was going to have a good game.
Because the Texans are terrible against the run. Everybody runs.
You could have stopped that the Texans are terrible.
Right. Again, we just saw what Derrick Henry did to him. So Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and now Saquon Barkley. If you have a running back and they're facing the Texans, put them in the game.
And I'd also like to say, per the statistical analysis, Amari Cooper on the road, not good.
Let's take a look.
32 yards.
Yep.
This was a road game.
So, that's not good for Company Man because he's on the road again at Buffalo next week. But the only good news is week 11's coming up, which means we're only about 3 weeks away from the return of Deshaun Watson. So maybe Amari will be consistent on the road and at home once he has. I mean, again, no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but he ain't Deshaun Watson. He's just not.
He's not.
Like Jacoby's a solid journeyman. He's no Deshaun Watson. All right.
He's not.
So let's see. Now let's go to another one we got all wrong. A recurring theme this week. We have Super Mario Cristobal versus Muff Divers. So Muff Divers scored the second highest by 0.06, but he's the highest scoring participant in our weekly win program. So congratulations to Muff Divers for their high score this week. Jared, you know both of these gentlemen for a very long time. One's a friend since high school. Another one's a family since birth. So tell us about their matchup.
Justin Jefferson, 30 points. I expected Adam to lose this game because, well, his team had been going as Lamar Jackson went. Lamar Jackson was on bye. But that's okay. Justin Jefferson said, you know what? I'll carry the team this week. And he put up 30 points.
Right.
As I look over to the other side, no one on his side scored 30 points.
They did
So
not.
Justin Jefferson out here scoring like a quarterback. And everybody else on his, if you just look, Rondell Moore, 13.9, Singletary, 15.2, Schultz, 14.4. People were just putting up nice, consistent points. You know,
solid numbers.
Jared Goff just didn't kill him.
No.
But you know,
I don't know.
It's literally just that 30 points. Because if you look at the quarterback, they pretty much cancel out.
Yep.
Like if you look at Robinson versus Singletary, pretty much cancel out.
Well, here's where we
end giving them that tight end right there. That tight end, that 1.6 didn't hurt. Didn't help, shall I say?
That's been a weakness for him all season. So we once again want to reiterate, Super Mario. There are people out there who would like to trade you a tight end. My brother, make a trade this week before the trade deadline, because this is about the third game where your tight end has given you pretty much 2 bits in a game, and you really could have used something. So the trade deadline is approaching.
The trade deadline is Saturday, and I have 2 tight ends on my roster that I think are trade worthy. So I'm going to leave that out there and see how you feel.
There's hope, my friend.
That's not just to him, because tight ends have been going down because tight ends, players in general have been getting hurt. But I know the Eagles, didn't they lose their tight end last night?
Yes, they did.
Zach Ertz got hurt.
Yep, one of my tight ends. So, all right. So let us go to the last game of the previous week, and boy, our poor co-host Deuce. So 2 of us saw this L coming from a mile away. Deuce, though, as statistical and mathematical and analytical as he is, cannot find it in himself to pick against himself. It's a pride thing, and that's the only reason I can think of that this brother didn't pick it. This was to me, this was the easiest call of the week. He solid game.
Be great.
You know, he had Carr. His opponent had Adams. Adams is on pace for well over 100 catches this year, well over 1,000 yards. You know, with both Waller and Renfro out on IR, you knew Adams was gonna get the ball a lot on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Davis, again, he's a solid number 2 on a high-scoring team, and he got him to the end zone. It was just too much firepower, you know, down the roster, and Deuce just didn't have the players to come at it. Despite Cook's 24 solid points, Lockett having a pretty decent game, but the others just didn't keep up. We did not see the production from Patterson. Even though Walker didn't have a great game, Patterson had a bad game. Taysom Hill, you know, when you throw Taysom Hill in your roster, which I had to do in a different league as a sub last week, right? They run so many gimmick plays, or, you know, they give him the ball on third down. Sometimes he breaks. You he's so heavy on a touchdown that it's really a Hail Mary, right? So you either know you're going to get nothing or 10. Like that's literally the coin toss. You're like, let's take a look at Hill this season with his points, right? So this was a 2-touchdown game where, to me, as an Alvin Kamara owner in a different league, he stole a touchdown from Alvin Kamara in this game where he scored 37. But it's like you can see touchdown, 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 maybe a touchdown, nothing, right? So if that's where you're going with tight end because his tight end is injured, then, not a whole lot you can do. But unfortunately, our brother Deuce did not get his second win of the game. And again,
I believe that he is mathematically eliminated from the playoff.
I feel terrible that we cannot make that point to his face as our resident mathematician. But you better doggone Skippy believe that I was going to point out that he has been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs this season.
You know the way I worded that on purpose.
Oh, you and me both, my brother. We had to do it, right? Like we literally had to do it. All right. So let's get into this week's game. We're not going to languish on them too long. By now, we all know the rosters. We all know the players. We all know the injuries that each team is facing. So we're just going to touch on each little matchup. And you know what? Let's go right back to Brother Math is King. So we know he's going to have to make some changes to his rosters because, he's got a wide receiver on bye. Murray may be back against San Francisco. So if he's back, that's a good choice. I don't know if Williams is going to be back for him yet.
Is Zeke going to be back?
I don't think they're going to play Zeke for a couple of weeks for the simple fact that the run game is working with Pollard. The Cowboys are thinking, how does this affect us in the playoffs? So, in all honesty, unless Pollard were to get injured, I don't see them trying to bring Zeke back for at least a couple more weeks to give him time to fully heal. Like, why? You got other running backs on the roster that can fill in, while Pollard, just give Pollard a spell. Let your workhorse running back get his rest so that he can come back, get his legs back under him a couple of weeks before the playoffs, and then he can be there for you when it's playoff time, right? So on the other side, Meredith has already smartly thrown Justin Fields back in there. I don't know. She may change her mind. Atlanta doesn't have a terrible defense. So who knows? Maybe Fields is the better play because he's doing it through the air and on the ground. But I don't know. I'm still rolling with Big Green all day long in this particular matchup. I don't think there's anything that Deuce can do to his roster that would make me think that his players can put up enough points to overcome in this particular matchup. No matter
not
who
unless he got some pending trades we don't know about.
Right? He'd have to make a whole bunch of serious moves between now and Saturday in order to try to pull off this win. But I think, unfortunately, our friend is going to languish in that 12 spot with another loss.
Oh, yeah.
So we can go ahead and assume that he picked himself because he's already told us that he's not picking against himself this season. So we'll get the rest of his picks away from the recording, but so we know that that's one pick that we can count on. All right, let's go. Super Mario versus Hanging with Hernandez. Now, Hanging with Hernandez has some roster changes he needs to make because this brother does not have a quarterback. Oh, Lord.
He ain't got no play in either.
both Gino and Tua are on bye.
He don't have
No
a tight
backup
end?
tight end. So somebody's gonna be hitting the waiver wire like a baby hits the bottle because he's got some roster gaps to fill. And I'm thinking about the people that's out there that he could potentially pick up, since we are a league where we generally carry two quarterbacks. I don't think that there's a quarterback out there that's gonna be able to come back and give him an edge. Talk to me, Jerry. What you think?
I'm about to go look at the waiver wires, who's out there at quarterback. I don't think there's a lot of great people out there, but let me double check that. Yeah, these quarterbacks are not looking promising.
I mean, Baker Mayfield is getting the start this Sunday since PJ Walker's injured. I don't think Baker's rostered in our league currently.
He's not. According to this, neither is Ryan Tannehill, Kenny Pickett, Andy Dalton, Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, I don't see any of those quarterbacks. But then again, let's be real. Justin Herbert on the other side has not been performing real great. So he don't need a great quarterback performance. He just needs somebody to fit in that slot and
no.
Not give him 15.
Don't get it
twisted. Then again, they playing the Chiefs, so he's gonna have to put some points up. So he might be
right. Exactly. So I don't know. I think unless they were holding back Keenan and Williams, and Allen and Williams for this game against the Chiefs, if he tries to roll out there with that same group of wide receivers from last week, this game may end up being closer than it should be. But I'm still going Super Mario. I think that the roster gaps for Hanko Hernandez this week are going to be a little bit too much to overcome. Even though Devontae is going to go off in Denver and have a great game on Sunday, it's not going to be enough to get him over the hump against Super Mario.
I agree. I don't see, like I said in the group chat, Hanko Hernandez has had like horrible matchups from a point standing. Like he's had like people have been having their best weeks against him.
Yes.
And he got a reprieve, I guess you could say, against Math is King, but I don't see him getting two in a row.
Indeed. All right. So now we have our mathematically closest projection. Even Yahoo says this is a coin toss. Less 0.06 separating the two from projection. Break this one down for me.
The question is, which Indianapolis Colts show up on Sunday? They going to be really good or really bad? I think that the Eagles are going to come out trying to show that Monday Night Football was just a fluke, and they're going to try to put their foot in the Colts and go ahead and just prove they still that team. I think that CMC is going to come out and say, you know what? I'm going to show y'all why they traded all these picks for me. You got the Patriots versus the Jets. Hoodie's going to say, you know what? Y'all still got a young quarterback over there. Let me shake him up a little bit and let's get this W. Justin Jefferson versus Diggs is going to be the matchup in that game. You know, because the Cowboys fans talk about their secondary, which has some injuries, but they still got Diggs and how he's that guy. We're going to find out if he's that guy this week.
This week, because there's been a few weeks where he was definitely not that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's close, very close. But I'm leaning towards Kirkwood in this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. But Adam had a good week last week, and I think that was more of a one-off versus the norm going these last 4 weeks. So I'm going with Kirkwood, and as they show, a mathematically close one.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Muff Divers. As you pointed out, this season, his team is gone as Lamar Jackson has gone. He's got Lamar Jackson back this week against Carolina. Carolina's going to be rested, but they've got to go up to Baltimore. And Lamar at home is Lamar at home. Like, the man makes magic happen there. Buffalo's going to be running the ball a lot after last week's game where they couldn't control the game at the end because they got away from the running game. I don't see them doing that 2 weeks in a row. So I see Singletary getting some extra carries this week and getting the ball a little bit more. And I think between Jefferson and Jackson, that's going to be just enough to give Muff Divers the edge. So we have our first discordant pick of week 11.
Selfishly, I would not be mad if Kirkwood lost because he is third-ranked team.
Indeed.
And that would help those of us ranked below him.
Which includes me. I ain't in playoff position yet, but everybody that loses above me helps me. That's the way I'm looking at it.
So basically what you're saying, it don't matter who loses this one, you okay with it because they both.
Yeah. I mean, the pick is one thing, but one of them losing is going to help me. And that's all that matters. All right. Acorn versus Armed Roger. Talk to me about this. I see some buys. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Let's see. Who on that bench for the Shirtless Wonder? Yeah. I'll say this. If I was the shirtless one, I would start Aaron Rodgers. Have you seen Tennessee's deep ball defense? It ain't good.
It ain't good at all. Which is why it sucks. It had to suck for Denver that their wide receivers both went out in the game where they should have been able to put some points up against the Titans.
Who you telling? Like I said, I see he got Wilson on by. That's right, Miami on by. The kicker on by. So Miami went by. A third of his roster went by. So he gonna be on the waiver wire.
Because this right here hurts. This right here hurts his team a lot. That injury to Jamar Chase, that's hurt a lot of fantasy teams.
Indeed, it did. Luckily, he ain't on my team. I got enough injuries on my own team. I don't need that one.
Right.
The thing that's perplexing me is Joe Burrow versus Pittsburgh. Not because they play in Pittsburgh, because T.J. Watt is back. And we have seen how the Bengals look when there is a legitimate pass rusher on the other side.
Yes.
Halloween night. They looked horrible.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but you know what? Arm Rodgery has been hot, and I'm going to roll with the hot team. Even though I don't think Joe Burrow's going to blow up, I'm still going to go with the hot team because he's still got Austin Eckler versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs' defense is so-so. They just put up so many points, it's never an issue. He still got Kelsey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he does.
I'm going with Arm Rodgery.
I'm also going to go with Arm Rodgery. I don't think that, again, looking at his bench and knowing what's out there on the waiver wire, I just don't see the magic pickup that happens, that becomes available, that helps him, that puts him over the hump in this particular game.
Oh, what about Antonio Gibson versus the Texans? We discussed they're terrible. It keeps the matchup close. I still don't think he wins.
I think Gibson has a good game, but I don't know. I don't see him having and as I say this will be the quote that comes back to bite me next week where Ed Corn pulls off the upset. I don't see Gibson having a 30-point game, which is what he needs in order to make this game competitive. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I just don't see it. So Acorn, of course, would be happy if we're wrong and his team does pull off the upset. But for now, rolling with arm Rodri. So, Jared, I'm gonna let you break down my matchup this week, and then I'll break down yours.
Oh, let's see what we got here. Josh Allen showed that he's still Josh Allen. Like I said earlier, which Indianapolis is going to show up today on Sunday? Which Eagles is going to show up on Sunday? His defense is on bye, but the defense ain't really the problem. You can get one of them off the waiver wire. I guess the question is Brandon Cooks actually playing? And if he is, what is he going to do?
That is a great question.
That Washington front is strong. They're going to have Davis Mills running around trying to keep him getting his head knocked off.
And that is a strong neck holding that head up, might I add.
He ain't never skipped the neck. He ain't skipped the neck machine.
At all.
He got Joe Mixon down here in the flex against Pittsburgh. He had that good game, then went on by, and he gonna come back, have a solid game, nothing great.
53 points is what he called a good game, everybody.
That was a great game, let's be real. We call it a great game. It's a solid game because you got Justin Fields out here running for 150 a week.
This is true.
But it took him from a great game to a good game.
All right, well, who's your pick, my brother?
I'm going with 2 moves, 2 balls, 1 goal. In a close one. And I do believe that Jonathan Taylor takes advantage of his matchup this week against Philadelphia, whose run defense has been real suspect since Jordan Davis got hurt.
Indeed.
But you got Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and we've already discussed that he can win games without doing much.
Unfortunately.
So
I believe in magic, right? So somehow, some way, even though I'm sitting at 4-6, I'm going to reiterate, I'm only 3 games out of first place. It's happened twice in this league where somehow, some way, I was able to win games late in the season and sneak into the playoffs. And it always comes with the necessity of a little bit of magic. So I need this. I purposely picked this Garoppolo as my backup quarterback because I knew at some point in this season I was going to have to play him during Brady's bye week, and that this Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel stack was going to get me something. When Lance got hurt, I picked up Jimmy G and I said, man, you know what? He's going to be my backup. And I have to hold on to the fact that magic is going to happen for me. So I am picking myself in the upset. Oh. And somehow I'm going to move. If I'm going to be 5-6 and still be in the 11th spot next week. But I'm still going to be one step closer to the playoffs.
I don't think you'll be in the 11th, 5-6, but
so we'll see what happens. And now we move to our final matchup of the week. Stairway to Evans versus Company Man. So again, for the people who know our league is full of experienced fantasy owners. And as you can see, literally 1 game separates the first playoff spot from the 6th playoff spot. We take this very seriously, and we have 2 former champs. Caleb was one before, correct?
If my memory serves me correctly, he is the first person to win back-to-back championships in this league.
And I do not remember anyone else doing it. So he's got back-to-backs, and you've got 3. So 2 champions, going up against each other this week. So let's check out the matchups here. So we got Kirk Cousins, who is your go-to QB. In the game against Dallas, where they saw Rodgers have it, even that despite the defensive efforts and great defensive efforts by the Cowboys, Rodgers was still able to beat them late with some good throws downfield. And Cousins definitely has a better receiving core at his disposal than the Packers do. So I look to see him taking advantage because if they stop Diggs, Thielen is still in the mix. Hawkinson's in there tight end, and Dalvin Cook is great at catching passes out the backfield. Judy is questionable, so we don't know what that's going to look like. The problem with Baltimore running backs is this going to be a week where Lamar scores the touchdowns from the close yardage, or is this the week where the running backs are going to score the close yardage touchdowns? It's a coin toss. On the plus side, Mark Andrews is the Ravens' leading receiver and Lamar's favorite target. And in a surprise flex move, we have a 2 tight end set, which I'm a fan of. So Kittle has been kind of inconsistent this season. He had that good stretch of 3 games where he went double digits. Arizona, this is a divisional and a rivalry game, Monday Night Football. George Kittle shows up big in big game, right? On the other side of the ball,
Arizona is horrible against the tight end.
Indeed, they are. On the other side of the ball, though, Patrick, whatever his middle name is, Mahomes the second, is always going to be him. And again, he loves running the score up on his divisional opponents. There's a lot of talk this offseason about if this would be the season where the Chiefs get dethroned from the divisional crown. Does not look like it's going to be this year, and Patrick Mahomes just wants to keep reminding everybody it's his division until he wants to let it go. Amari Cooper's on the road, so you know what to expect from him. Not that 10 points you're projected. You can go ahead and throw that out. You can cut that in half. Saquon versus Detroit. Detroit gets run on. So Quadzilla is going to go out there and do his thing. Now, he does not have a tight end presently, but the good news is he's got Tanyan. Tanyan's been up and down, hit or miss this season, but he is a favorite target of Rodgers when he's in the game, so he might be able to snake a couple passes for a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, ugh. Yeah, that'll be Edwards-Helaire when it's all said and done. So I'm not worried. So that's going to be a position switch, but I'm still going to go with
Edwards-Helaire got him 0 last week.
But in a game where the Chiefs are going to be up and they're going to try to hand the ball off and close the game out, Edwards-Helaire is he's going to have a good game. Despite that, I'm still going to roll with Stairway to Evans. I'm going to take I'm sorry. Boy, did I say that wrong. I'm going to roll with Company Man. Sorry about that. I did not mean it. I'm going to roll with Company Man. I think Company Man's roster has better matchups this week. I think that his 2 weak spots, which would be Cooper and potentially the other running back, are still going to overcome a lot of the question marks on the other side of the ball. Kirk Cousins versus Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. And I'm also going to go ahead and assume that you are not picking against yourself this week.
Well, sir, you are incorrect. I am going to go with Company Man in this one because the players that have carried my team, Cooper Kupp has been my go-to player. Cooper Kupp is hurt. I've got Jerry Jeudy questionable. I got a lot of Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, questionable players. My bench has players on bye. The rest of the team has been Leonard Fournette, Chris Godwin carrying the team. The players are hurt. I don't have my best this week, and so You know, sometimes you have to bet against yourself. Like I'm gonna be like you were last week. I'm gonna pick against myself. But if I happen to win, I'm gonna take it.
Exactly.
But I'm going with company, man.
See, Deuce, it's okay to have an honest conversation and say, you know, for the purposes of look at it as a selection and a bet. For the purposes of the bet, it's okay to pick against yourself because either way you win, right? If you pick against yourself and your team still wins, you still got the W. You may not have picked the right team, but I'm sure you'd be happy with the result. If you pick against yourself, and
Exactly.
you put yourself in the standings of the which host is the better predictor, then hey, you know you did the right thing there too. But well, that takes us to the end of this week's predictions. We certainly appreciate everyone joining us this week, and we're happy to be back. So everyone out there making that playoff push for these last 4 weeks of the regular season, best of luck to you. Unless you're facing me this week, then I hope all your players drop passes and fumble the ball, and I hope my defense scores a lot of touchdowns.
Wow. Such a petty close, but I would expect nothing less.
Listen, man, it's playoffs time. Ain't nothing pretty out here. You know, we trying to make this thing happen into the playoffs. So time for some gut check. So let's go, teams.
You know.
All right. Until next time, everybody. Peace.